It's Nolan. What's going on, beautiful people? It's the kid J Nolan here. Welcome back to another episode of Inside the Industry, your number one source for music, entertainment, commentary, and breakdowns. This particular video, we're going to be getting into the commentary sector of my channel. Y'all know I'm not a political person. I don't share my political views all that often, but y'all do know I definitely was a supporter of Kamala Harris. And unfortunately, we woke up today with, less than stellar results. Let's just say that, we have the Cheeto Man as the president one more time. And it's going to bring a lot of different changes into our country. It's going to change a lot of the fundamental things that we've come to know about our political system, our economic system, and things going on around us. It's especially going to be tough for those of us that are raising children in this world, you know what I'm saying? Because I just feel like there's just an overarching theme of darkness that's kind of floating over us. Maybe this is just a temporary thing. Maybe this is just how we're feeling today. But I do feel like there's some darkness on the way. All right. Again, I'm not a political person. I am not no political science major or nothing like that. And I really didn't want to talk about this at all on my channel today. But I just figured I would just come be human with y'all and just express my disappointment. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Many of us feel the same way. There's a lot of blame shifting being put out there. But I also want to send a message to my brothers and sisters, right? Us black folks. I hope that this showed us, as much as we can be our own worst enemies in many instances, the results did show that we showed up, we did our part. So I'm hoping that as far as this election is concerned, that we're not continuing to go to war with each other about that, because we showed up. As most of y'all know, I do live in the Atlanta area. There were some bomb threats made in Cobb County, which is, I live in Cobb County. So there's that, right? Attempts at voter suppression. Apparently that's not a big enough issue in this country. Apparently, people not feeling safe while they're voting is not important. Of course, leading up to this, we had reports of people saying that they were going to not count ballots of people in certain rural areas and different counties and things of that nature. So apparently these types of things, people have been empowered to the point to where they can actually say these things and put these things out into the news and have no fear of consequences. So that's also what we're living with these days. Very bizarre, I don't understand it. I don't think I ever will. I don't know if I'm supposed to, right? If you see me going in and out of focus, let me see what the hell's going on, because the shit is bothering me too. I don't know what that's about. I've never really had this issue with my camera, but we're gonna truck through this, man. But yeah, we got Trump. Again, we got all these people coming out blaming all these different groups of people. You got people that are trying to, again, put black men and women against each other. There's people out there that are going really hard about the Hispanic vote and turnouts and all of that, you know what I mean? But I just want everybody to understand, at the end of the day, we can break everybody into all of these different sectors and categories. At the end of the day, each individual made their choice, right? So I wouldn't want to just lump everybody in to these little convenient boxes because we're angry, we're distraught, we're unhappy, we're not satisfied with the decision, we're not satisfied with the results. And when we get in that place, we tend to lower even ourselves and function from a place of hurt, and then the next thing is to try to hurt somebody else or bring others down along with us. And I don't think that that's necessarily the right way to go about this. People are individuals. They have their own minds. Each person had to fill out those boxes. And I don't know if it was necessarily ideas of nationalism or tribalism or even culture that influenced people's decisions at the polls. I can't say that to be accurate. As humans, when it comes down to it, we all go off of our own vested interest, what we think is going to be most beneficial primarily to what's in our household, what we think is going to be beneficial for our pockets. And I think a lot of people made decisions with those tenets in mind, but maybe not as informed or educated as they possibly could have been, because many of us are misguided and not understanding the consequences of having this clown as our president. I think people would have known by now, but I guess it takes a second time for a lot of people. Doing content over the course of the last few years has shown me that the people that I used to think were bright, the people that I used to think, we were in this collective cosmos with, sharing understanding, sharing some sort of, broad shared worldview or whatever the case may be. It's shown me in a very quick clip that that's not true. The comment sections of my videos, the certain things that people say, mentalities, ideologies, things that people spew in the comments, it's just a microcosm of what's out there. And it shows that many of us are not as bright as we would love to give our brothers and sisters credit for being, And I think that's also an issue, but it's not an issue that we can tackle. It's not an issue that we can really bother ourselves with, because we don't know where everyone stands, and we can't change people's fundamental thought processes, right? So here we are. You got Charlemagne coming out blaming Joe Biden, saying he should have gotten out the way sooner, saying that he should have, in the middle of his presidency, told people he wasn't running again so that Kamala Harris could have had a much stronger campaign, a longer campaign, had more time to strategize. Maybe he's right. I don't know. But I think we all should have known, and I think we all did know, how challenging it was going to be for a black woman to try to run for the U.S. presidency. And they threw everything in the book at her. They questioned her blackness, although you can trace back. You know what I'm saying? Come on. They say she's a fraud. They say she locked up all these people. And despite being presented with facts or being presented with the reality of the situation, all of those things were targeted and spoken about on a daily basis, 24/7, no matter what. It didn't matter. You got people literally talking about her dad claims she not black. There's no evidence, but I've had people jump in my comments and say her dad allegedly sent some letter saying you ain't black. And people believe these things, right? So, again, what you come to find out, especially when you start seeing the things that people are willing to believe in, is that everybody's just not on the same wavelength. That's the simplest way to say it. You can interpret that in a million different ways. Everybody's not on the same wavelength. But again, I don't want us warring within our own community over this shit, because I do think we have way more potential together. I think we have way more potential than we acknowledge or give ourselves credit for. I don't think that, for the culture is an effective way of moving forward. I think we've tried that. We've tried to be too cool. We've tried to be too hip. Stuff like this takes me back to a time when I was way more militant in my way of viewing the world. You know, I used to always say, man, black people, man, we just too comfortable. We too comfortable out here, man. We got too much freedom. We got too much money. We got too much, you know what I mean? Therefore, we're not going to make decisions based on what's best for us all because we all have comfort to uphold. And with comfort, with access to money, with trying to take care of your kids and your family and all of these different things, again, you're going to make decisions based off of what you think is going to help you accomplish those goals the most. And it's not going to be based on your neighbor, this person over here, you know what I mean, the people you see every day when you go to work or whatever. That stuff at that point gets overshadowed. I think, unfortunately, it's just too big of a task. You got people saying that, you know, Gaza, Palestine, and all of that is the issue. People say Kamala wasn't strong enough on that front, right? And she lost a lot of support for that, which I do believe there is a percentage of people that may have not wanted to support her. And we could see the numbers of people online on Twitter that say those things. Only thing about that is, out of that number of people, how many of them, number one, were ever planning to vote? Because you get these loud sections of people that hone in on certain issues. They're loud, they talk. But truly, they were never planning on doing anything that required action to begin with. So then there's that. I'm not saying everybody fits into that category as well. If Palestine was a fundamental issue that you felt was not being spoken about enough by Kamala Harris, I would love to know what you thought Donald Trump's perspective about them was, because he said he was going to continue to do whatever it took to eliminate the issue. And he wasn't talking about bringing peace. So that's the thing, you know what I mean? It's like you're willing to side with the greater of a so-called two evils because you have a black woman that's not willing to stand on the issue that you think is most important when there's so many other issues at hand inside our own country. But you know, I don't want to step too far on that because I do believe in human rights. I do believe in freedom. I do believe people should have the right to, land, food, water, shelter, peace, and to not be going to war over no fucking land. You know what I'm saying? That especially if it's over who you think God gave it to. We not finna, you know what I mean? That's a whole other thing. But that's the blame shifting, right? You got people that feel like because she wasn't strong enough on that, and because she maybe had some people escorted out of the rallies and things that were trying to disrupt her speeches, that she was wrong for doing that. Again, I feel like a lot of this is just microaggressions that other people would have never had to deal with or had to face any sort of consequences for. But again, black woman, everything is hypercritical. Man. What else? Who else is being blamed about this shit? I want to try to just address all of that, you know. Perhaps racism is to blame. Misogyny. Yeah, I think those definitely played a part. I think that's always going to play a part. You could wake up today. You could go back 50 years. You could go ahead 50 years. Shit's always going to be a part of the conversation. So, yeah, you could blame that. That's pretty cut and dry. You got people that say the Democrats should have listened to Bernie Sanders. He said to keep it to the bread and butter, keep it simple, try not to focus on cultural topics, right? Make empty promises about how great things are going to be. I mean, I don't understand how more clear Kamala could have been about protecting housing, you know, enforcing more regulation on the housing market, creating more funding for first time home buyers, creating more tax breaks for people with children. I don't know how, you know what I'm saying, enforcing regulation on groceries, inflation. I don't see how any more bread and butter you could get when you got a clown out here that don't give a fuck about none of that. You know, it's almost comical to see how this stuff plays out, and the issues at hand are always the issues at hand, and even when you tackle them, it's like it wasn't strong enough. This whole entire past few months, people have been saying, what are Kamala's policies? What are her policies? Not once have I heard anyone question what this nigga policies is. But since we're here, let's look at what we have to look forward to as this clown gets ingratiated into office. Give me a moment here. I'm going to pull up NBC News. They have an article here that gives us a little outline of what's to come. Okay. All right. So they say Trump has repeatedly said that on day one, he will seal the southern border and launch what he calls the largest deportation program in American history, invoking the Alien Enemies Act of 1798. He's going back to 1798 with his thought process, which was last used during World War II to help make that happen, deporting more than 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the United States would cost the U.S. billions of dollars and require staffing increases to the tens of thousands of people who will probably never be hired. All right. They say his team is also considering withholding federal police grants from local law enforcement agencies that decline to take part in the deportation. So if there's any law enforcement that does not want to take part in this and does not want to enforce these mass deportations, the police will lose support by taking that stance. Okay. They say on the topic of immigration, Trump said he will end catch and release, restore remain in Mexico, and bring back Title 42, which is a restriction from his first administration that turns away migrants who arrived illegally and does not allow them to seek asylum in the name of public health. Now, to some people, they may say that's a great thing. Some people here believe that immigrants coming from Mexico or other places may be taking away our jobs. In my 30 plus years of living, I've never seen it, but if you believe it, I guess it's true. Okay. Trump said he will also send Congress a bill to ban sanctuary cities. He also intends to ask Congress for funding to hire 10,000 new border agents and approval for a 10% raise for existing agents, as well as a $10,000 retention and signing bonus. So I guess if you're struggling, you might want to try to figure out a way to go work for the border patrol people. Seems like those are going to be the best jobs for people that are struggling. You got to oppress other people in order to get your bread. Trump said he will also ensure federally funded benefits, will also ensure federally funded benefits are being used by American citizens, no one else. He's also promised within 24 hours of taking office to shut down the Department of Homeland Security's CBP One app, which provides potential immigrants appointing scheduling, remote interview access, and the ability to fill out necessary forms. So this is an app in which immigrants can apply and get the necessary scheduling, interviewing process, fill out the forms to become citizens. He's shutting that down to make it even harder for people to actually become citizens, right? Because apparently, again, people feel like we're overcrowded and these people are taking the jobs, although most of them do things our lazy asses ain't gonna do. Trump has announced his intention to seize the assets of criminal gangs and drug cartels in the United States and use those assets to provide compensation for victims of violent crime. He also called for the death penalty for any migrant who comes into the U.S. and unalives U.S. citizens or law enforcement officers. Again, these are things that to some may sound great. But to me, it sounds like grounds for further oppression, because we all know people are wrongfully accused for crimes, especially when you're not the preferred people. They say Trump has also promised to not only bring back his controversial travel ban targeting certain Muslim majority countries and struck down by courts, but to expand this ban to include refugees from the Gaza Strip and institute certain ideological screenings for all immigrants. So again, those that say they did not vote for Kamala due to her stance on Gaza, your new president is bringing back a travel ban, which will be expanded upon refugees directly from Gaza, saying, y'all can't come here. That's your man's. On reproductive rights, a central issue in the election, he said he would veto a federal abortion ban, but allow each individual state to restrict the procedure as it wishes. In his first term, he managed to get 3 of his conservative nominees confirmed to the Supreme Court. All 3 of them voted with the majority to overturn Roe v. Wade. In comments that were widely criticized by Dems, Trump said he would protect women whether the women like it or not. That's the messaging that you're going to get from your president. Whether women like it or not, y'all going to do what I say under the guise of protection. On the economy, Trump said he will quote unquote end inflation and plans to pass what he calls historic tax cuts for workers and small businesses. He said this will include no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, no tax on Social Security benefits, and a tax credit for family caregivers who take care of a parent or loved one. Okay? But please believe we will be paying all of those taxes in other areas. Trump said he will work with Elon Musk. Let me repeat that. Your new president is planning to work with Elon Musk, a so-called genius that's making robotics and fucking electric cars and creating the Wild Wild West online. He's now being brought in by a president. Okay? And here's what they're being tasked with: to eliminate every single federal regulation that he says raises prices and kills American jobs. What the hell does Elon Musk know about American jobs? On top of the regulations, he's promised to end 10 federal regulations for every new one created. Okay? One thing he did say he will keep in place is the Affordable Care Act for the health insurance marketplace, to keep that intact. But that, don't let me get started on marketplace health insurance. That shit sucks. But let's keep going. He said he will sign an executive order directing every cabinet secretary and agency head to target inflation as a key priority. Okay. He also promised under his administration there will be no tax on the first $10,000 of costs associated with education for parents of children who are homeschooled. I don't know, man. I might got to talk to my baby. We might have to go into the homeschool because they are defunding public school anyway. They trying to take away the Department of Education and shit like that. So we might have to fucking homeschool. Woo. They say Trump has promised American companies will get the lowest taxes, lowest energy costs, lowest regulatory burdens, and free access to the single best and biggest market on the planet. How can you promise these sorts of things? Where is the money going to come from that's not being put into these programs? So whatever. He also wants to lower the corporate tax rate to 15% from its now space at 21%. And he said he will impose a 10 to 20% tariff on all imported goods. So this is where the tariffs come into play that we've been hearing about. There will also be a tariff of between 100 and 200% on all businesses from countries that don't want to use US dollars as their reserve currency. So he's basically saying for any country that does not want to make the US dollar their primary form of currency, they're charging niggas 100 to 200% tariff on their businesses. How you think that's going to impact our import system? America don't make too much of nothing. But we going to tax the niggas, or the people, let me just be more politically correct, that are doing the work for us. In September, Trump called for reinstating the state and local tax deduction, commonly known as SALT. In 2017, Trump signed the legislation that capped the previously unlimited federal deduction at $10,000 per filer. The policy hit people in blue states the hardest. Even though Trump signed that measure, he has pledged to undo it. When we get into the environment, they say for cars made in the U.S., he will make interest on car loans fully tax deductible. He said he will terminate an electric vehicle rule published by Joe Biden's administration that makes electric vehicles more available and affordable over the next several years and makes it more difficult for gas-powered cars to keep up with an increasingly stringent Environmental Protection Agency standard. So if you're not interested in purchasing or using electric vehicles in Trump's society moving forward, you might be asked out. Okay? Because that last sentence there, they're making it more difficult for gas-powered cars, which most American citizens still are driving, to keep up with the EPA's standard. Interesting. They say without providing a plan as to how he'll make this happen, he said he will cut consumer energy prices in half within 12 months of taking office. Interesting. When it comes to foreign policy, he said he will end Russia's war in Ukraine within a day. Within a day. He says he's going to meet with Putin. He's going to meet with Zelensky. They both have weaknesses and strengths. He said within 24 hours that war will be settled. He certainly overestimates his power there. Oh boy, just a little bit more here. As it pertains to culture wars, Trump leaned heavily into anti-trans rhetoric during his campaign, promising to enact restrictive policies during his administration. He says on day one, he will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory. We already know what that is. That's mostly for us or people of, the African diaspora especially, but also others that come from other places and have been oppressed in this country. He calls it trans insanity and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the shoulders of our children. So cutting federal funding for any school that is pushing, as they say, or teaching about any of these types of topics. He says, I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. So schools that are asking children to be vaccinated to protect other students and staff, or mask mandates, of course, with that was with the COVID. Not supporting any school that has these regulations in order. That's your man's. He wants to get rid of the education department as it currently exists and allow each state to individually handle education. In a quote, he says, we'll have one person plus a secretary, and all the person has to do is, are you teaching English? Are you teaching arithmetic? What are you doing? Reading, writing, and arithmetic. And he says, and are you not teaching woke? He says, not teaching woke is a very big factor, but we'll have a very small staff. So that's going to be the only standards: reading, writing, and arithmetic. And I'm sure arithmetic, he's referring to math. So as long as you can read, write, and do simple math, that's the educational standard in our country. History, science, oh shit, comprehension, that's already been on the fence. Why you think we got him? Boy. Also, he plans to keep men out of women's sports and ban gender-affirming care for minors. Okay? He also has a plan promising retribution for his enemies and those who chose to help him get convicted, found guilty on 34 counts of falsifying business records. He wants to retaliate against those who supported that. Okay? And they're predicting that his charges may be dismissed or delayed now that he's won the election. That's your man. So, again, I didn't really want to make this video. Really didn't want to come on here and talk about this stuff. But to be honest, what the hell else was I going to talk about today? You know, I could talk about King Combs, Diddy's son, taking over his Instagram and trying to post, you know, the good old days, all the great things my dad did for people over the years. Fuck that shit. I don't give a fuck about Diddy. I don't give a fuck about Diddy. These niggas are reporting on what this motherfucker is eating on his birthday in jail. I don't give a fuck if this nigga's eating or not. Niggas are talking about, oh, here's the freak off NDA. I don't give a fuck about that NDA. I care about the real victims who were violated and seeking justice. I could give two fucks about an NDA that does not hold up when it comes to crime. Niggas got me on one, but again, my hand was kind of forced. In order to come talk to y'all, I got to talk about what's relevant. I got to talk about what's current. And what's current today and what's relevant today is not music at all. It's not the music industry at all. It's not what none of these motherfuckers got going on. As of today, niggas can kick rocks. All right? We're going to continue to talk about stuff as it happens because that's what we do over here. But that's what we got today. Let me know what y'all think of all this down below in the comments. I'm sure this could be a divisive topic, you know what I mean? And it's going to just reinforce what I was saying about some of the comments. But here we are. Again, let me know what y'all think down below. Be sure to like and share this video. If this is your first time seeing me on YouTube, go ahead and subscribe to the channel. Become an insider. Figured I'd come be human with y'all. I'll catch y'all on the next one. Much love and respect. Praying for y'all, praying for your families, praying for your peace. And we're going to get through this shit. It may not look good today, may not look good in this moment, but we're going to overcome this shit. All right? Much love and respect, y'all. Peace.